So yeah, hello everybody and welcome back to this stream. So yeah, last time we did most of the front end for now, so that today we can actually focus on building the complete backend. So what we've got at the moment, or what's not the complete, so we've got this, which is basically just how the header and the landing page will look. In case you're logged in, you'll have like this drop down with your profile, your orders and your cards, and a way to log out. But what we've also already built is the login screen and also the register screen, which both are linking to this. And we've also already have got the link in place for your password reset, which as of now doesn't exist. So what we want to build now is actually the backend and the PHP for this. So what we can already do is I've already got the, I copied the package JSON and installed all of the files. So what we will do is go into our project, copy everything except the node modules and the Git files and these two. So we want all of these folders. We don't want to move them, we just want to copy them. Now we can also go ahead and open up Atom in this folder. And this often has a bit of a problem with some of the plugins when you're just starting it over the console, so I'll restart it over my task, over my Windows menu. So now we can actually go ahead and use PHP code. First, what we'll need to do is start our XAMPP, Apache and MySQL server. Then we can go on to, once the Apache server is started, we can go onto the page and also into the PHP MyAdmin. Which now is also running. So what we will do is we'll create, actually no, I think I already created one. So we've got a users table. I think this just had your username and email, email verified ad, a password, tickets available, and a token, and a created ad, and your amounts of orders and how many tickets you've got available. And then you also have had the orders table, in which you could see the ID of the ID, which has the auto increment, the order ID, which will have some sort of random number, the price, and the state. So if it is being processed, if it's already paid. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I think I created that in one of the previous live streams. So we've now got this database. Now we'll just need to build the backend. First thing I'll do is change this to a PHP file, because what we can do now is up here I'll create a PHP. I'll start the session, and it's session_starter. Now I will say auth is equal to $session. For now I'll maybe use like something like a token or something. Or I could also use like the user ID. So yeah, we're just checking if they're logged in, and we can now also just copy this if statement. For example, we want it in our navigation. So in case, we'll open just the PHP text here. If somebody is logged in, we want to display the drop down, and if somebody's not logged in, we want to have like the normal navigation links. So right now we should get an undefined because this session variable, I'll just have like some development values. So the session, no, this is how we do it. We'll ask if this, we'll set auth equal to null up here. And then we can say auth is equal to this. So now if we say our user ID is equal to 123, we will still get an, oh yeah, I forgot to comment this out. And we'll have a few different things that we'll set there. So now you can see that we've got our thing like we used to before. But if we were to set this to null, we refresh, you'll see that this drop down disappears. So what we'll, I'll just put on some music on my second screen. So what we'll do is go onto the Get Bootstrap website. Then we'll search for navbar. And we'll just grab these two. So what we'll pass in here is this. We'll say login and register. This one will link to dash app dash, no, it's dash auth dash login. I'll already name these PHP. And in here we'll link to auth register.php. Now we also just need to rename these. So we could say PHP and rename PHP. So what we can just do in the login script for now is say if is set, if the post submit is set. First of all, we'll just do some error stuff here. So we'll say location dot dash login.php with a response of error. And I can also pass along a message, but in this case I don't want to say what went wrong. And then at the end we can also pass an exit. Now what we can say in here is just simply say that, for example, the user ID will be, so my database, I've got the ID of 1, so I'll just pass in the 1 right here. That way we will get logged in. Before we'll do that, we of course need to start a session. So that way, if I now go onto this, we'll see the login. If I go here and just click login, oh yeah, never mind. We'll also need to redirect back. So if we're successfully logged in, we can direct back to the index.php file and just pass in success. So if we now go back to this page and click login, why is that not happening? Let me just go into the login.php file. So we're sending the correct script, and this hasn't got a name tag. Submit. And since this one hasn't got one, this one won't have one either. So what we can now do is, if we say refresh, click on did I have a typo in there? There we go. So now I'm logged in. Of course, so that we can log out, we'll have a script of logout.php. So I'll just go into the index here. The logout, we could directly link to the script, but what we could also, let me just check something. If we were to, first of all, that won't do anything. If we go to the auth login PHP file, okay, because if we were to just create a link, it will display to which script we're linking, and we don't want to display this. So what we can probably do is have just have a form, which will, I'll just check if this is working. So we'll send this to the script logout. This will have an A and it will have a type of submit. I'll also give this a name of submit just so that we can be sure. Or does this really have to be a button? Now this is actually working, so you can see it's just looking like before. But as soon as we click on it, we go to this page, and if we hover over it, it doesn't show the link to which we're linking. Like when we hover over this, you can see that down here it appears that we're linking to just hashtag. But if we click on this, we get to the page without it being displayed, which just gives us a bit more of security. So so let me just go in here. So essentially what we want to do in this file is we'll again check if someone is logged in. We'll leave this away. We'll just keep this. I will keep this the way it was before, but if something fails, we'll just link back to the main page saying error, even though we can just leave this, since there won't be an alert displayed or anything. But what we want to do in here is the actual logout stuff, so we'll say session unset, which will actually unset all the values stored in it, and then we'll also go ahead and destroy the session, and then we can just send them back to the index page. So if we're now here, we're logged in, we'll click log out, we're back here, we're again logged out. We can go ahead, log in, we get brought back with success. Theoretically I could also leave the success away, but it's nice for debugging. I'll probably leave the success in as well, just because I like it a bit for debugging. I may also keep, no, I won't need that. So yeah, so we've got this. Now we can go into all the fancy stuff, let's call it that way. What I will create is a new file which will be called connection.inc .php, inc standing for include, since this will be an includes file. Now what we'll have in here is of course a PHP tags. I'm not sure if I'll enable short tags on the server, that's why I'm using the normal ones. So we'll have the host, local host, we'll have our name, which I'll put equal to, we'll have a DB username, which in this case will be root, and we'll have a DB underscore password, which will be equal to nothing for now, or at least empty. Then we'll have a connection variable, which will be equal to null. We'll have a try and catch block. In here we'll take a PDO exception. We'll take a connection variable and set that equal to new PDO. As the parameter, we'll now pass a bit of a string, so we'll have our MySQL host, which will be equal to, you know what? I'll use the, oh no shit, that's, never mind. That was the JavaScript new connotation, which was enabled by, I'm not quite sure which ES it was. So we'll pass in our DB host. We'll have another string, which will be a DB name. Never mind, this is supposed to be the DB name, and that's not supposed to be named GB name. So, I'm sorry for the slow typing, but I want to get this right, because if you've got a problem with this connotation, it'll be a pain in the ass to figure out. So we'll say that our DB username is our DB username, and that our DB password is our DB password. Then what we'll try to do is say connection, set attribute to PDO for attribute error mode, and set the PDO error mode exception. Then we'll have this, and then here we'll just echo that we've got a connection error, and then we'll just echo out the exception, but we'll call the get message function on it. That way we get a bit of a nicer error. Now what we can do in the login file at some point will be to include once our connection inc.php file. I'll try to comment this. So that way we can import it. Now, so we want to get set up with the login. Actually, so we could test the login, we actually need to first register, because we want to directly use the hash and unhash. So yeah, I'll just remove this dummy code from the registration form, and just to save for some dumb errors, well, whilst building the front end, I seem to have totally not cared about the backend, as I just straight up went ahead and basically just forgot to add the names. So I'll jump back like this, and now in all the cases where we've got a space except for this one, we'll have it added. So now we've got the names in here, I'll just add the names in here as well otherwise. And good fact that I checked, because this would have been a real bummer later on to debug. or I would have been real confused if it said there was just no input coming. So yeah, what we'll work on is this file. So first we'll get and sanitize the user input. Get and I'll actually just call it san user input. So what we'll do is we'll say username equals to HTML special chars. Then we'll call the strip tags function on the post username. So we'll have the, I'll just put this up here whilst we're getting all the variables. So we've got the register. So we've got first name, surname, then we've got the username, then we've got email and password. So all I have is first name, surname, then I'll have the email and the password. That way we've got all the variables and we already sanitized the user input, so it's not so easy to get SQL injections. I'm just explaining a lot of the code that I'm typing, even though I probably won't have to. Now we'll just check if the fields are empty, which is quite an easy check. So we'll just pass in every single of the variables. We'll say if empty, and then we can just go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that was one too much. So this. So we can now go ahead and delete these. Open up the brackets. Now we can actually go ahead and close this panel, because now we can work in here. So we'll have an else tag. Of course, these will get pulled in here, these success ones as well. And we'll copy another one of the errors in here. We'll say response error, the message will be empty. We've already set required to the fields inside of the HTML, but just in case somebody would manage to pass this, they would still have to fill in all the fields. And I'll just do a bit of commenting here so I'll know which errors this is. So I'll say empty user input. And here I'll say just submit unset. Then here we can just continue. So now we'll include the connection. Actually, let's just name it actually include, not just import. Include the connection. Now what we need to figure out is if there is a user with this email or a user with this username. So I want to check quickly my database for the users. So we've got, okay, so we've got username as a prime, we've got username as a unique, and we've got the token as a unique as well. We haven't got the email as a unique though. I may also give the email a unique. Let's just keep that for now. We can always get a username, and we can always get a person by their username. Actually, let's also put the email unique. We don't want multiple people getting an email if somebody requests a change on their account. So we want a unique on the email as well. So what we'll do is, and I'll just copy this code over, is this is a check if the name exists and if the, so we've got this, which looks like quite a lot. So we're closing this else and this else, I think. This should give us proper indentation, yep. So we're selecting email as email exists from users where email is equal to what we're passing later. So we're passing an email. Then if email exists is greater than 0. Don't we need to check? Well, that usually works. Then we go ahead and check if the name exists, or we'll check the username as name exists is equal to the username. If so, we'll send back to the we've got the message one with email, one with username. If this is actually, yeah, if this else, we don't need anything to have in between those, because either it'll go into this if or this if, or we get an error up here, so we can just continue in here without any problems. We don't want the success down there. Same for this if statement, either it'll have hit this or we'll run this, so we won't need something below this either. So in here we can go on with the actual code, and what we'll do first is we want to hash a password. So what we'll do is say password underscore hashed is equal to password underscore hash. We'll pass in our password variable, and I want to hash it with the password default, which is a PHP way of hashing. Then we'll generate user token. So we'll say token is equal to bin to hex, and we'll pass in some random bytes. Otherwise, just wondering why this function is blue. Usually this is working. Now theoretically we could go ahead and check if this user input is, or if this token is unique, but the chances of this not being unique is so slim, and otherwise we'll get an error by the database. So what we'll do now is just insert. So what we'll say is our statement. I'll just paste this below here before I copy something else. We'll set this equal to connection, prepare, insert into users set username and to do it that way. Set username, set email equal to email. We'll set, actually we can just copy these, I think. So we'll say how are they named in the database. I'll just move this to my second screen so I can look at things a bit faster. So we've got, actually I haven't got the first and the last name in the database. So what we want to add is in here we want to go ahead and we'll say after ID we want to insert 2. So we'll have first name and surname. Should both be varchar with a length of a bit long of a string. So what we've got now is this. Now we can go ahead and set that first name, last name, first name, last name, and I don't know why I had this back over here. We'll say email. Then we want to pass in the password underscore, we just say passwords equal to password. And the others don't need to, actually, based on the system, we'll need to create so we'll have another, which will be probably after the token. So the token, it'll be an enum. This will either be 0 or it will be 1. By default, it'll be 0. Yeah, I'll just leave that by default, it'll be for 0. And then we'll say open, or we'll say so we want to check if it's a member of the school, because if it's the member of a school, they have a certain amount of tickets they can purchase, which only they can purchase. And if you're not from the school, there's a certain number of cards available for everybody. So normally I now set this to be 0 on default. So every time you register, you'll be at 0, because every school member, they will pretty much, me and the team that's organizing it, they all will be inserted with the username just of their first name dot their surname, and then a random password that will generate for them. So they get like a sheet of paper where their username and their password's on, and that way they can already have this status of a school member. So we can set them up front, and then later on we can just, everybody else is working the system. So now I'll check what else we need to insert as well. So the tickets available will be, by default, I'll need to remove that number anyway, but or I'll set to default after we inserted somebody. But what we want to insert as well after the password is the token. So now this is quite a long of an SQL statement, so I'll probably have these set up in some sort of, what I could also do is something I've seen quite a lot. Is having it indented like this. That's just making it a bit better readable. Now the next thing, let me just check the chat so I don't just obscure it with my database. So what we want to do now is actually bind all of these parameters. We can do this by accessing our statement variable and saying bind param, and I'll pass in the first will be the first name, and then we can pass in the variable, which as we declared up his first name. Now we can just copy this down for the last name, the username, the email, the password, and the token. We can just go ahead and always, it's Control D on Windows, I'm not sure if there's a Mac keyboard for it, but it's pretty much just marking the next. Now here's where we need to think about what we're doing, since we don't want to insert the password, but we want to insert the hashed password. The token's alright, we'll just say query, and we'll say bind data. And I think what I'll do as well is actually, oh no, I think that's about it. and we'll just say statement execute, and if this runs successfully in this if statement, we will of course need to send email, send verification email, and then we'll want to redirect them to the success, and else something went wrong with the database or something. So just say error creating user. Just checking this else was closing of there, so there's no way of breaking out of anything here. So in case I were to now go ahead, there'll definitely be some errors. What did I do wrong in the logout file? Did I even touch it? So what's the error we're getting? Unexpected header. On line 8. So I forgot the semicolon there, but it seemed to be working alright before. Nevertheless, we'll refresh this, it will send, we'll get back with a success. If I go to register, I'll have Constantin as my first name, Ross as my last name. This is actually the perfect username that I want to use. This will be the email. And as a password, I'll just use root. And we're getting an error and a message of empty. And that's the first thing I'll correct, is we're getting back to the login. This is definitely not what we want. So we get error with a message of empty, meaning we're here. No, it could also be this. So I'll say error 1, that way we can divide between them two. I'll pass them in stuff again. I'll send, I'll get empty, meaning it's some sort of problem with the variables we're getting. First name, surname, username, email, password. Very simple test we can do just here is we can just line 13. We're getting a variable in every single one. Would have been confusing if something else would have happened. If first so again, this error down here, meaning we're tracing it up to this if statement, and this says it's a good mistake. It's just supposed to enter this if this is not empty. Never mind, I want to do it the other way around. I want to check if this, I would have otherwise had to put in an AND. So I'll check if they're empty, and if they're empty, I want to have all the error stuff happening here, and all the other stuff happening there. And I fucked up the indentation. So wait, what did go wrong? So with opening one, closing. We've got open, close, open, open, close, close, close. Is having a problem with this? Okay, never mind, that didn't mess up the indentation. So if I were to send this off again, I'll probably connection error. So we've got some sort of error in our connection file. So now we're getting that the email is taken. If I were to go into my users table, change this email just slightly, pass in the identical name, the email, it'll now say that the username is wrong. And that's exactly what we wanted. That way we can just get exactly one user with the exact same email. Theoretically, I should also check if the token is the same, but since I'm never getting a user by its token, that should still be fine. So if I were to now say Constantin Ross, this email, and root as the username, copy all exception, insert into brilliant move of me, surname, how hard can typing be? So we go ahead and say surname, save, refresh, maybe this will now work. Nice, we've got success. If we look into our database, we've got a hash password, we've got a random token, we've got 5 available tickets, the email hasn't been verified yet, we've got a created ad, we're not a school member, which I'll change for me. So now we can actually move on to the login. And after that we can get into all the fun stuff with building actually all the features in. Actually we still need to send the verification email and this stuff, which is all the boring authentication stuff. But once we get into the features, this project will actually get a bit more fun. So I can now copy quite a few lines from here. So we'll sanitize the user input, even if it's just the username, the username and the password. We'll check if it's empty. We want to include our database. We want to check if there is a username. Or actually, if there is a person registered with this username, because otherwise there's no point in trying to log somebody in. This will link to the login. But in here we don't want to check if it is first of all, we'll actually, you know what? Let me just check. I've got this code written for so actually we want to check if this is smaller one, but we want to check if the username as name exists from where username is equal to $username. Just saying if the name exists if it is greater than 1. We'll check if it is smaller than 1, we'll give it the error, and otherwise we can continue there. So it's actually correct. Then we want to check, also we'll have an else if the row, since we're selecting everything, we actually now have in this row the user with this username. We can go ahead and check if the email verified at is empty, because if this is the case, we want to actually redirect them back to the login page, same with email underscore verify, because I want to if this is empty and the school member is equal to 1, because if a school member is logging in for the first time, they will need to enter their email. So I need to think, how would I name it? School member equal to 1. Is this binding more than let's just put that way we're safe. So if it's empty and the school member is equal to 0, so if you're not a school member and you're logging in without having registered, you'll get this to verify your email. Else, if just check if this isn't the case, if it's not verified, then we can go ahead and check if this is equal to 0, because then this will happen. So if you're not a school member, you need to verify your email. If you are a school member, you will need to enter your email, and then you'll need to re-log in and verify. So then we'll also have a normal else, which will just have like an error with an error, in which case we have absolutely no clue for what went wrong. Error, error, errors. So I'll have verify email, enter email, Yeah, so I'll put an enter email.php file, which you will be linked to, so that you can enter your email address, and otherwise we'll just say fail to fetch valid value. So if your user exists and that user is actually verified, we can go ahead and check if the passwords are correct. So we'll say the password verify, which will be password, and the row password. And if this is the case, we will log the user in. Actually, we can say log in the user. Else, you've sort of got a bit of a problem. So then we will also have this. This success should go maybe. So what we want to do in here, first of all, we want to have a success here with a message of, you don't really get a success message. If it's success, it will be success. But first we want to, okay, we did it already up here, but we don't want to do that. We just want to start it down here. And here I'll then now specify a few session variables. So yeah, we want to set the user ID. We also want to set a few other things. We want to set like an authentication token, the username, the first name, their last name. Actually, their username is totally irrelevant. Token, first name, last name. Actually, we'll save the first and the last name in a different variable. I want to have the number of tickets that are available for this person. Let's just take a look at the database, what fields could be relevant as well. So what we want to have directly access to is the school member. So we'll have auth token, which will be equal to the token in the row. Then we'll have the username, which will be equal to UC words. We'll have the row with the first name. I'll pass in the UC words just in case somebody spelled their name lowercase. So first name dot last name, that way we've got their name. So let's just store it in the variable name. I will then have the tickets available. And down here I want to just have the so yeah, if I now log in, we can get all these session variables. I'll just go into this file, just go ahead and echo them right here. Of course, I normally would use the PHP HTML entities for this, but it'll do the job for what we're trying to do. So unexpected empty. Oh yeah, brilliantly. So that's working. Since my email isn't verified. Oh yeah, shit. Sorry. I forgot that I changed some of my microphone settings. That's correct. That's all working. If I were to remove my school member status, and I try to log in, I'd get the verify email. But I want to be a school member, and I want to, let's just say verify my email today. If I now log in, I'll get logged in just to the very, very wrong file. So I'm going to go back out one more directory. I'm going to go right there. So if we go ahead and log in this, so now I'll just check which values this is. So we've got our user ID, we've got the token, we've got the name, which did not quite work because if I were to log out, we'll get a bunch of errors. If I log in, we'll now get the full name. We've got our tickets available and this. So yeah. So yeah, now we can do a bit work on this menu because actually no, we don't have to. So what we theoretically, or first of all, this should just be, so we're going to the index. We can remove this theoretically. Actually, I'll leave this so I can copy a few things of here. So if I say, so we're saying if is it off, where we're at, so I wanna check if I am a session member, if I'm a school member. Actually, I did this for the wrong. So yeah, if I log out, I won't get an error up here, do I? No, it's not even getting. Yeah, never mind. So if you are a school member and your tickets available is less than 1, which means it's either 0 or a negative number, which should not be possible if I develop it the correct way. So now it's greater, just then it should display. Otherwise we won't get. So now I can go ahead and order cards. Theoretically. So the way this will, everyone can see me talking. The way this will work is there will be like, let me just go ahead and to paint so I can illustrate this better. So I have two pools. So we've got like a pool which will be for the open public, so everyone can buy some, or your friends can get some cards or tickets. And then there will be like a pool of cards, but there are 5 cards separated for every person. So we've got like already this numbers that are, so you got pretty much these things, you know, that you can't move. Just imagine this container fully filled with it. And then you have also got, then you probably got the feature to, let's just say if I buy 4 of my 6 tickets available, which are, never mind. That's actually something that I had wrong in my head, or which the people organizing actually told me wrong. So the default is 6. So you've got 6 cards that you've got pre-ordered for you basically. And if you actually order just 4 of them, you'll probably have the feature to actually give the others a free for public sale. So there will probably be the possibility of like moving a part of your chunk into this so that others can buy it. But I'll need to have some way to divide between the personal cards that you can buy and the public cards you can buy. Right now we've got my profile, order cards, my orders, and log out. So this will just give you a possibility to change your email and your password. I don't want you to change your password. I'll probably, theoretically this page is needed. So where's the CSS folder? So these can get deleted. So yeah, now you can order cards, or you can visit your orders, or you can go to the logout. The logout is working. You're getting this. And go ahead and register. I can't with mine. So it's quite nice having the login system. I've also got like the sitemap and everything going. I'm just thinking what's the next big feature, or what's the next feature that we can go ahead and implement. So we could go ahead and work a bit on the new fold. So we'll have the order.php file, the orders.php file. A small but fine difference. Normally I should use some sort of templating engine and a framework, something like Laravel. But since this is for a school project and we as a class need to pay for everything, we'll just buy pretty much the cheapest stuff we can get, and therefore stuff like Laravel or Symfony or something won't be supported. So now we can actually so we've got this will link to ..app-order, and this will link to orders. No, this is the file that I can copy into here. Now the actually on these pages I need some sort of home, since now never mind, this page actually hasn't got the possibility of linking yet. So from here I'll link to app order, and here we want to display the orders. So I can go to here and we're on the order page. Of course, I'll need to modify the front end and stuff for this page, because I don't want the identical stuff in every single page. Also, this is actually linking to the main CSS file. This would need a different layout SAS file. But yeah, just thinking if I'll probably build the enter email page. So I'll name it enter This is somewhat between a personal project and a project for a client. So in Germany we've got pretty much the equivalent to the prom in America when we graduate from the equivalent to the high school. So what so there's this big organizing going on with all the cards and the after show party and everything, and who you invite and stuff. And normally this is just done through a lot of paperwork, but I've talked, obviously people in my school know that I'm into web development, so I've talked with the people that organized this entire thing, and they've asked me if I were so grateful to build like basic online shop or something. So this is, I'm doing it probably for free, maybe again for a little payment, but probably for free. Just a bit of organizing and getting all the data online. So it's somewhat indirectly also for me, but also for a client it's just for my grade, it's not for my school. If it works and if it's a good project that's working all right, I may go ahead and, you know, sell it to the next grade or so. But yeah, that's it to that question. Just in case any of you have got any questions whatsoever, or exactly, it's good for the resume. If any one of you has got any questions or anything regarding any topic or something about a project, or if you were to like to see a tutorial on something, just go ahead and let me know in the comments of the live stream or in the comments under the video, or just go ahead and send me an email. You can find my email under my under the channel informations tab on YouTube. Did you give down your email? So I want to see here. Oh, so what this is saying essentially is just please enter your email address. So I'll have email with a type of email. I'll totally remove this. This will be script, enter email. It won't have this or this. So we've got this. So yeah, if I'll log out. If I go ahead into the users table and I'll delete my user, I'll go to register, enter my first name and last name, my email address, I'll sign in, I'll register, it'll say success, I'll go to the login page, I'll log in, it'll, okay, that's now because the default of this is setting me to not be a school member, but if I was a school member, which all of the people that I'll register them will be, it will say enter your email, please enter your email. You could just go ahead and pass your email, click on send. So this will call this script it'll be closer to the register than to the, a lot simpler. So we'll just have the email, no, theoretically what I would need, now I need to have some way of getting the, of setting the email for the correct user. So I'll need some sort of value that I can get in here, which gives me the user ID, the email, or not the email since I need to insert the email, but the, I'll theoretically just need something like the ID. I can get the ID through the link. So just by redirecting you theoretically to this with, but if some, I mean, I'm probably the most intelligent regarding IT stuff, but in my grade, not my school. But you don't have to be that into a PHP or something to realize that this is the ID that will be set. So I want to have it somewhat more hidden. Now, for this to work when registering, or for when logging in, I need to know the ID so that I can send the ID back. Now, the only way I can do it is by passing it into the parameter, I think. This will only affect the people in my grade anyway. Yeah, it's not too big of a security issue. Sorry. So we're going to pass in the ID. I'm not sure if you can do this. So if I were to go to the login page now and log in, that's not what I wanted. What happens if I'm passing it in like this? Now this will work. There we go, we've got the ID passed in here. Now what I will do in this is I will have the thing will be a number, it'll have the display none. This will also have the hidden. This will have the name of ID, the ID of ID. It won't have a placeholder, but it will have a value. And this will be equal to PHP echo HTML entities. What will echo is the underscore get. And what we want to get is the ID value. So we'll pass in the ID as in a field that is named ID. So now what we can get in here is actually we can get the ID so now we've got the ID. We'll go ahead and delete all of this. I'll probably think there won't be anything empty. Now we need to check if the email exists. Now what I'll actually pass in the username. Actually no. With the ID it's at least random which user again. If you pass in the username it'll be quite obvious. So we're checking in length ID if ID exists. Right here where ID is equal to ID. Get ID from there. If ID exists, if the ID doesn't exist, we'll just send error because we don't want people just trying out random IDs. So now what we want to do in here is not, because we don't want to hash anything, we don't want to I want to change the token whenever they change their email, so I'll change this. Now what I can, let me just check the live chat again. So we've gotten what we theoretically just need to do is have our PDO stuff. So I have update. Then we'll have the table set email to email where ID is equal to ID. That way we just need to bind the username and the ID. If this is set, we want to send the verification email. We'll also want, just thinking, I mean, after you've typed in your email, it was inserted into the database. I want to let the user know that they should verify their email before they're logged in. So I'll probably link them to the, first of all, I'll set this to enter email. Otherwise it'll be a bit of weird. I'll probably link them to the login.php file with a response of success and a message of email underscore set very I will set to set underscore email. I will just keep that email set. I'll set it to email set please verify. So then when do we get back to the login page with a success? Never. Perfectly. So that way we can, I'll just do this really cheap. In the login, I'll say so I have the PHP code. We'll say if is set get, and we'll check if it's set. If R is set, we'll check if get R is equal to success, else we'll check if this is equal to error, and else we'll just give the user a general error. So then we can, in here I'll check if we'll check if message is set. So of course this will need to be set properly later on, but if R isn't set, we will put out this text that I had in here before. If this was set and it was to a message, and the message, it's getting a very deep if statement, the message would be equal to then I would, of course, later on this will be alert, but for now this needs to do. Fee, then Dank. Bitte bestätigen Sie. Oh, sorry, it's not spelled with a double E. So now we're saying thank you, please verify your email address. The other ones I'll just won't worry about them for now. So if I were to log in and enter my email, it'll say error message email, and that is because this email is already, yeah, I'm a bloody genius. So yeah, if I were to register a school member for the first time, they wouldn't have their email inserted. So if they go here, they'll have success. They would have success if they would be linked to the login PHP file. So if we refresh, we can actually see that that absolutely nothing has worked. Let's just go ahead and do this from scratch. So what we'll do is we'll go to the first site, we'll click on register, we've got our first name and last name, the email address, which I will now go ahead and remove. So I'll set the email address to nothing. Then I will go ahead and say login. I'll try to log in, it'll say okay, it won't since I'm not a school member. If I were a school member, which would everybody be if I'd register them, I'd need to pass in my email and it would say message error error, which is the jackpot. So we've got an error 1 and error 2, seemingly. So we have to pass in this and click, we'll say success, email set, please verify. So we've got, which is exactly what we wanted. I would like to get, where is it, login, this one. I probably want the R tag in there. Just be doing a bit of the design. There we go, that's looking a bit better. If I were to click now, it would, why did it? So if we, now those values are both correct, so it's something wrong with our code. let's just keep them for debugging. It could be just any sort of string. So do we get to here? It's on line 4, not line 42. How can we manage to do that? So we've got an undefined index of ID in line 42. So where ID is equal to ID, then we'll send ID here. Let's just echo this here. Why are we getting an undefined index? So, first of all, I realized that I'm not doing anything with the token. Actually, I don't need to set anything with the token, so we can go ahead and remove this. But it's weird that we're getting an undefined So the weird thing is that this error is still occurring in line 42, which now is this. No, it's an undefined. Would be nice if I could read. It's an undefined index in this file in line 42, which makes absolutely sense. So I know it's now because every time that if I log in and fail, it gets to ID 3. If I enter an email and submit, it overrides this with the response and the message. So there is no ID which can be put in the hidden field. So there is an error in this field which I can't see since it's hidden, which then leads to the error which will appear in not getting the ID in here, which means that I don't need to set this, but I rather need to use this sign. Then what we also need to figure out is that I'm getting the error with the ID of 2, meaning we need to check that if this is smaller than 1. That's the problem that we're having. So I pretty much just need to replace all of these. Actually, no, I can keep these. But what I need to enter in every single one except for the login is ID equals to then the ID, and then have this, so that if I first of all need to remove this, and then I'll just set this back to that again so that I actually get an error and can test it. So if we've got this, I've got my email signed, I'll click this, we get the ID and the error, so that when I submit again, this is actually working. Now if we go ahead and fix this problem again, and go ahead and enter the email, send this, it's a success. We got here and it's saying, thank you very much, please verify email address. If I click here now, it will just... Okay, now that's a bit of a problem. So theoretically, we're determining that somebody hasn't entered their email yet if the email verified is empty. But what we need to theoretically do is say, if email verified, if the date is empty and you're not a school, you'll need to verify your email. Else, theoretically this all needs to be removed now. Else you will be logged in. But what we want to check is if, and there we can now also, well, that one from all over the place. Jesus Christ, what am I doing? So we'll say else if this is supposed to happen, then we'll say it's like this. So we can now here we want to say if the school member is equal to 1 and the email field itself is empty, then we want to redirect them straight to the So if we now go ahead and sign in, something went wrong. Actually, why should this be dependent on you not being a student? I still need to fix this style on mobile, but if we go ahead and log in, so yeah, we get the email verify. If I were to verify, first of all, if I refresh, I now have got an email. If I refresh to say any date and log in, we'll get logged in. Now we'll test this go one final time before this stream's going to end. Yeah. Perfect. So go ahead and register. So it's Constantin Ross, pass an email, everything. Now we passed in the email, which is not something that we want to do. So let's remove our email. We also want to have the school member status. So if somebody from my class were to log in, they'll enter in the username, the password. So we need to change the order of these. So this is the way it is, because we first want you to do this, and then we can, so we log in. You now need to enter in your email address. You'll do this, then it'll say please need to verify email, because now you just need to continue verifying your email. And if I were to now, because the email is actually set, if I set a date on this and log in, we're logged in successfully. So that system's now working. Therefore this stream will now end. I hope that everybody of you enjoyed that. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. I will maybe be back with a stream tomorrow. End of the week I'll work on a new client's project, and so there will also be a devlog coming next. So there will be a devlog coming up next Sunday. So I'll see you all next time.